Hello, let's continue on. Let's have some fun. So, what I'd like to do next is randomize the order of the items when we click the Shake It button. So we need to call some code that's going to take our array and give it a totally random order. And I'm sure we could just find some code to do that. Matter of fact, yeah, if you were to search for fisher-yates shuffle, I'm sure we'd be able to find that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to implement our own shuffle operation. So the way this is going to work is, let me explain it so you can follow the code. We have n items, okay, and we're going to pick one at random, and we're going to swap it with the bottom item. Okay, so our selected item goes to the bottom, and then we consider everything n-1, and we do the same thing. We select something at random, and we swap one to the bottom. We swap the random one to the bottom. And we keep doing that until we end up with no items left. And by doing that, we get a pretty efficient and very random shuffle operation. I think it's called fisher-yates shuffle. I think Knuth also made some tweaks to the algorithm, and that's called a Knuth shuffle. So let's go ahead and do that. I thought we'd just do it ourselves. So first thing, we could just write this anywhere, but I like having services that provide functionality that you can reuse. So I'm going to create a provider. So let's call it a shuffle provider. So we'll let Ionic generate the frame. We'll just let Ionic generate a couple files for us. So I'll go Ionic G for generate. We want to create a provider, and it's going to be called shuffle. Actually, I think it'll call it shuffle provider, given its naming convention. So that runs off, creates a couple files. We can see Visual Studio Code, notice the changes. And by the way, I've been checking in all my changes, and my repository is available for everyone, so it's very easy to get. What did it change? So let's see. First of all, it created a shuffle file. And second of all, in the app module, it said, hey, shuffle provider is a provider. So this way we can inject shuffle provider anywhere we need to use it. Make sense? Let's go into shuffle provider. First thing we're going to do is, I happen to know we'll get into problems if we don't actually use HTTP, and we're not using HTTP, so I'll just get rid of that. HTTP, don't need to inject it. There. Guess we don't need that console message. Right, but what we do need is a function to shuffle our array, so I'll call it shuffle array. Now, we know that the array is going to be an array of people, but the shuffle provider doesn't need to know that. It just needs to know it's an array of something. So let's code that. Let's say it takes data, and data is an array of any. Right? Now, what's this going to return? Well, it's going to return data again. It's going to return an array of any. Cool. And I'm surprised I didn't. Oh, yes, we actually have to return something before that error will go away. So what do we want to do? Well, first of all, our array's got a size, so that's data. Do I want to call it array or data? I like data. Data is easy enough to deal with. We know it's an array. First thing we need to do is we need to think about what the current index is. And the current index is going to be the, initially it's going to be the last element of the array. So I'm going to say let current index equals data dot length. Cool. In fact, that's 1B, let's see if it's 4. That's okay, that's actually good. That's just one beyond the, yes, that'll be one index beyond the end of the array. Makes sense. So now we're going to say while zero is greater to or equal to the current index, right? Then we will do this. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to pick a random thing in the range. So I'm going to say let random index equals, okay? And so now we need to have like a random number generator. Of course, the built-in one is math.random, and that'll return like a floating point number between 0 and 1, which is very convenient for us to work with. So I'm going to multiply our current index by that. And finally, and if you think about that, that kind of chops up everything into like equal probabilities. But it is returning it's decimal. You know, this is returning a decimal. We want the integer. As a matter of fact, we want the integer with the decimal part chopped off. And when you think about what it's doing, yeah, that makes sense. So that would be math.floor. There we go. Math.floor. Cool. So once again, for an array n elements long, this will return a number between 0 and n minus 1, right? Next thing we want to do is we want to swap this random element with the last random element. Now, this is also a good point for us to change our index. Our index is beyond the bottom of the array right now, and we know we want to, yeah, it's just easier to do this right here. So I'll say minus minus current index. Or I guess it's easier, it reads better if I say current index minus equals 1. Okay, that's pretty good. Finally, we need to do the swap. I'm not going to create a helper method for that. I'll just create a temporary. So what do we usually do? We go swap. We say var t for temp equals, and then we'll go first to the, let's see, we can grab either one of them. I'll grab the one on at the current index. So this is actually at the bottom, right? So I've grabbed that. I've created a copy of that bottom element. Now I'm going to do this. Now we can overwrite that element because, let's just copy that to the clipboard. And I can say overwrite it with what we found at the random index. Now interestingly, you can see that this could, like, we could have randomly selected the last one. And that's okay. This is just saying, yeah, overwrite the last one with itself. So I think we got all bases covered. And finally, since we're doing a swap, we need to put our temporary into that random index. So I think that'll do it. And then when this is all done, we'll just return data. And that looks about right to me. I think that does it. So let's try this out. Let's go to, let's try this out. But first, I think I'll just check this in because I'm pretty sure this should work. Actually, I am surprised we're getting that red thing, but quite often TypeScript doesn't get the red underlines right all the time. Let's just give this a shot. So I'll say implement shuffle, And I know a lot of the times when I do these, commit these, I'm not on video, but I have been committing, every small change that we make. So now let's try to use this shuffle. We'll go over to our application, and if we go to the home page, home, that would be under pages, home, TS. We do have a shake it function already, and currently it just is a simple swap. But now we want it to do, to call our nice new shuffle provider. So this is getting kind of long. I'm going to break this onto multiple lines so we can see those things being injected. And now I'm going to add private shuffle SVC is shuffle provider. Nice. And once again, it automatically imported for us. So now that we got the shuffle provider, when we do a shake it, we can just do this. We can say shuffle service dot shuffle. What did we call it again? I'm just going to switch over here. Shuffle array, that's what we called it. Back to home. So shuffle array. So we're going to pass in our people array. And we are going to assign this to people array when we're done. And we'll just wait for Webpack. Okay, I got something wrong. Let's see. Yes, that's a great error message. Did you mean the instance member? Yes, I absolutely did. So, in case that's not obvious, in the constructor, we pass shuffle service, right? So this is, this is basically only, if I didn't say private, it would be something that's just a variable inside the constructor. But I said private, so it actually made an instance variable for us, and that's what I meant to do. So I'll just say this.shuffle service, and that would be why it didn't autocomplete for me. One of the reasons why I like using TypeScript, it catches a lot of my flub ups. Okay. Okay. Now it's saying that a people array is not assignable to array of any. Oh, there's a subtle difference between those two things. So I'm going to go into our shuffle service, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to say it's an any array, and this is also an any array. Okay, let's give it a shuffle. Click the button, and every time we click it, that looks pretty random to me. Okay, so yeah, that looks good. Let's move on.